I am so excited to introduce Joan Reid, who is an artist, a teacher, and an energy worker. She taught art and computers in high schools as well as college for over 45 years, retiring from teaching in public schools. She is still teaching and offering classes and workshops in her studio in the Shirt Factory in Glens Falls, New York. 30 years ago, Joan took a class in basic dowsing at the American Society of Dowsers annual convention, and since then, she's been an instructor and director of ASD's basic school and foundation course at our annual conventions. She was awarded the Teacher of the Year award and is a lifetime member of the American Society of Dowsers. Joan loves to help people become aware of their inner abilities, to trust their intuition, and to learn about energy work. As a clinical hypnotherapist, Reiki master and teacher, Hawaiian energetics practitioner, and dowser, she also maintains an office treating clients in those areas. Joan hosts and facilitates meditation gatherings at her studio and teaches classes in meditation, Hawaiian energetics, Reiki, dowsing, listening, and trusting the messages you get. Please welcome Joan Reid.
Thank you.
Thank you. I'm so delighted to have you. You bring together so many things that I have such a deep interest in. So, well, let's take a trip down memory lane. Take us back to that first class. Like what sparked you to try dowsing in the first place?
Well, a long time ago, probably more than 40 years ago, I was teaching art in public school, 900 kids a week, building a house, putting a husband through college, and my body fell apart. And I took a medical leave from teaching in public school and then started taking meditation classes, all kinds of alternative healing classes. I really wanted to be a doctor originally, because like my father, but they didn't encourage females back then. So I started taking things in meditation, biofeedback. There was a parapsychology course at the local college. I took that and found out I could do remote viewing. My meditation teacher became a really good friend of mine, and she used to go to the Dowsing convention and she would teach. Her name was Loretta Grabowski. She's not alive on this plane anymore, but we became really good friends and started learning all kinds of things together. Reiki. I mean, she would teach Huna and have a meditation class. So I started using Huna, which is a positive way of living and thinking that the Hawaiians just naturally do because it's part of their culture. So Huna, I took classes 14 years in Huna because I just loved being with the people that had like minds and wanted to meditate and wanted to be positive and got out of a victim mode and, all the type of things that got my attention as I was healing myself. So Loretta took me to the Dowsing convention where she encouraged me to go. I took the basic school and it was like stuff I already felt like I knew, but now I started having labels and a system. And the teachers were amazing. They were people that a lot of them were water well dowsers at the time. And this is around 93 or 4. And then it got my interest so much that I started using it for all kinds of things, just playing with dowsing, my pendulum, the L rods, body dowsing, deviceless dowsing. And I just kept going. They asked me to help teach it the second year. Lee Cachadorian, an amazing dowser, she asked me if I would help teach. Bob Surd. I mean, I was with some of the elders, amazing people with wisdom about energy and the ability to trust their intuition or their gut feelings or whatever you want to label it. And I started realizing how much the labels really didn't matter. And I took all kinds of things, shamanic classes, Reiki, Hawaiian energetics. I took so many different things. I became a clinical hypnotherapist because I was training my body to work again. And I healed myself. So then I started helping other people because I thought, people would say, "Oh, how'd you do that?" And I would show them what I did. I started teaching classes, meditation groups. So as I started teaching at the convention, it went into all different areas of my life. And I've been invited to different states to teach dowsing. Um, I've actually gotten very into the Hawaiian energetics. So I go to Hawaii. I have been 16 times. And I just love the people that I meet, the people that know about energy and trust what they get because they practice and they believe. And then every year they keep asking me to come back. So I love it. And I'm so happy to help the people learn about themselves.
That's great. I love it. Well, and I love how just almost organic and easy I could just imagine that with all of your teaching skills that you bring to the table, that it just was such a natural fit.
Yeah, I was in public school for a long time, and I feel like that helped me when it comes to helping people learn where to start, because that's the biggest thing, and then where to go from there, and where to go from there. And a lot of it is learning how to know what your intention is, which is getting to know yourself. So a lot of the things I do kind of dovetail into each other.
Right, right, absolutely. Yeah, this is something that's come up in some of the other conversations, just that we can actually, if we are kind of coming in, I like to think of it as like energetic clutter or static. It'll impact the answers that we're getting. But if you come in clear with that clear intent, then you get that clear answer. I love that.
And in the foundation class in the basic school of the American Society of Dowsers, we focus on making sure you have the intent. Well, first of all, making sure that you're centered and that you are ready to do what you want to do and have the intention of knowing what you want to do. And when you get centered like that, you have amazing abilities. Your energy just flows so much more evenly and clearly. And I know that Lee Barnes showed you that chart of the consciousness and what the dowsers and the meditators, how their different levels of consciousness are activated depending on what you're doing. And dowsers seem to have a lot more access to the different levels of consciousness at the same time. And that's scientific. So that I love the science part of it that proves it. I'm glad science is catching up.
Yeah. Yeah, that really worked out. It basically showed how different people, different practitioners, say like meditators, etc., would access different uh, zones of consciousness, right? Like we talk about theta waves or something like that. And dowsers, it was like the whole all zones, all all waves, which lines up with this idea of connecting in with, all knowledge, really. You know what I mean? Like this is if you could tell me more about, your perception of or your understanding of where do the answers come from?
I believe we are energy beings. We're energy. Energy is everywhere. It never stops. And the energy, our energy, it's unlimited. So another thing we do in the basic school in the foundation class is show people their own energy systems. Like we have the physical energy, we have the etheric energy, you have the astral energy, you have the energy that goes out into your community, you have the energy that goes out past that into the state or the world and then out into the universe. There is no end to your energy. So thoughts are energy, words are energy, everything is energy. So when we ask the question in the right way, we get the answer that goes along with it. So asking the right question is so important. And that goes along with the intention so that you can direct it. It's sort of like If you have a computer and you don't ask it what you really need or want, it won't come back to you. It doesn't guess.
Hmm.
So when when we learn to say what we really mean and what's our truth, we can get the answers.
It put me in mind of, that asking those questions because I can already hear it, well, how do I know if I'm asking the right questions? And so, yeah, how would you answer that question?
Well, we teach the beginners, and I'm finding out the beginners aren't as much beginners now as they used to be 10 years ago or 20 years ago. People are learning a lot more about all of this stuff, thank goodness. But when you learn to put a question in the right way, you start feeling it. It's like an energy experience. When you ask a question that isn't clear, your dowsing won't be as clear. You'll get a no in the beginning when you're trying to center yourself. Most dowsers have some way of centering before they douse. And one of the ways that we encourage people, at least to start with until they figure out they like it or they want to do their own words, it's can I, may I, should I? And that is, can I douse right now? Sometimes it's we're not in the right place. We haven't had enough sleep. Maybe we're hungry, or sometimes the person dowsing is tired, is dehydrated, needs some kind of fuel, food. Um, and you have to make sure that before you douse that you're in the right place. So that's part of the can I, may I, should I. Part of it is kind of a permission thing. Is it appropriate for me to douse right now? You want to make sure that everything is, as the Hawaiians call it, pono, in harmony, in unity, or, that you want to make sure that there's nothing getting in the way of getting the true answer. So when I've asked questions and they're kind of a compounded question, you don't get the right answer. That they don't know how to. You, when I say they, I'm talking about all the energies around me. And they can have labels. They can be angels, spirit guides, God, universal energy. Again, labels are only labels. It's the energy around us, our helpers. I call them my tribe. I have a tribe of helpers, and it's all connected to me. It's all my energy connecting to everybody else's energy, including yours. Even though we're a distance apart, I can feel your energy. I can see your aura. Your energy is beautiful. So, I distracted myself. What was the question?
We were talking about the they. Please tell me more about my aura. No, I'm just kidding. I call them my wisdom council. Same because some are ancestors, some are guardian angels, some are, but it's like you say, the labels really are, they end up becoming irrelevant.
Well, if you think of everything as energy, it's all like, you know, intermingled. Um, just like our cell memory. People and the scientists know about cell memory. I mean, it's a combination of my father, my mother, my grandmother, my grandfather, you know, their great grandparents. Who knows exactly which teeny little particle is something to label? It's all together.
Right.
And when people talk about the Akashic records, it has to do with the energy of all time. And as you know, man made time, the label time.
Right. Right.
And we are multidimensional beings. We can be in all time.
Well, it's kind of one of those, as our brain is wrapping around that. I think to your point, it does dovetail in with the dowsing because, even when we're tapping that wisdom, that intelligence, whatever our name for it does transcend time.
That's why you can distance douse, map dowsing, remote viewing, finding missing people. All the different things that some people kind of roll their eyes at, they're real. People can do that as long as they don't get in their own way. And one of the things, back to the basic foundation class, one of the things I love doing is I have people that help me that are teachers also, like Leroy Bull and Tick Goodrow and Richard Roy. And we've set up a way of, okay, Leroy has a specialty. Richard has a specialty. I have a specialty, and Tick has a specialty. And so we take turns talking about the specialty or the things that we use dowsing the most for. And we throw out little tidbits like I just did with you. And then that gets these people that come as students to start thinking. I love to help people think. And then when they have a little piece of whatever that they really want to know more about, then they can go to the convention and listen to somebody else talk about just this a little bit more. Or they can do research when they get home and find out more about whatever it is that they heard. So that's what I like to do.
Tell me more about the different areas that each. So you listed off yourself and the three other instructors of the Dowsing Foundations course. What are those specialization areas?
Well, I just happen to have a book that we worked on that we hand out to the people who come to the class. And it has, first of all, we talk about the tools you can use, whether it's a Y rod, L rod, pendulum, bobber. And we show people how to get their responses for yes and no. And we make sure that they practice so that they know that they can get a yes, they can get a no, and that they can be consistent. So you have a pendulum, Cherise?
I do, of course.
So, well, let me just use this one because you can see it better.
Wowzers! Isn't like the ISIS one or something like that? Or yeah, okay. Something like
Yeah,
that?
it
Or
is.
yeah, okay.
It's the nicest one. But when you figure out, like when I ask, show me my yes, mine goes like my head goes. It goes back and forth like this. And I always say thank you. And then, because I'm thanking myself and all my tribe. And then I say, please show me my no. And then it starts going sideways. And that's like my head goes like this. And I know a lot of people use circles or back and forth, but there's no one way. And I want to say this to you. If somebody says, this is the only way to do this, think in your head, no, it's not. Because you find what's right for you. And that's what we encourage in the basic school, in the foundation class. We help people learn how to get their yes and no, whether they're using a pendulum or the L rods or the bobber or whatever they're using. And then we also talk about deviceless dowsing. And we talk about map dowsing. And I made charts that talk about different modalities and different things. Like I have a blank chart, and we show people how to make their own charts for whatever it is that they want to do. And when I have a client that comes to me in my office, sometimes when they say, oh, I don't know, I know you do a lot of things, and what am I just need help or whatever. I will douse, and I made a chart for myself that has modalities on it, like, oh, they need essential oils, or they need a Reiki treatment, or they need hypnotherapy, or they need a massage, or they need to learn how to meditate. Or I have this whole thing on this chart, and I douse to see which one on the chart is for their highest good or for their benefit. So I like to use beneficial and non-beneficial. I don't like to use good and bad. Because as you know, a lot of times something that seems bad to somebody else, we really needed to learn a lesson. So it was beneficial for us. So we do a lot of talking about ways you can use dowsing. I have a chart here for essential oils. I have charts in my book that you can find out what's the next thing you need to do for your house. I mean, we have so many projects, probably if you're a homeowner. Oh, the roof, the basement, I need to paint, whatever it is. So you can't do everything, and you don't want to be overwhelmed. So take your pendulum and douse, what's the next thing to do for my house? And it points to the next thing. And then you learn to trust that. And then you can, okay, I got this part done. Now what's the next thing? You know, because life can be overwhelming if you let it.
Absolutely. Well, I thank you for introducing the charts because I think this is such a great perspective in terms of there are so many ways to use dowsing in decision making and making these choices. I love the use of the charts. I know in my own attendance at the conference, I've seen people use it for feng shui or to find, energy directions and ley lines. There's so many ways to apply it in our daily life as well as for practitioners, in their practice with their clients. It's really cool. So thank you for sharing that some of the ways that you use dowsing. Tell me about, okay, how does, because I know you've talked about the Hawaiian energetics. How does that kind of play with the dowsing, or where does it intersect, or tell me more about that?
In my, I have learned through the Hawaiians how to change my energy into other qualities and volumes of other qualities, such as fire, water, earth, and air, and mana, which is like Reiki energy. Um, when when I learned to douse deviceless dowsing, I became more and more aware, as you will, as everybody will, when they douse a lot, they get messages in their body and they start realizing they don't need the tools. We all like to use the tools because we're visual beings, and sometimes we don't believe ourselves when we get a gut feeling or an intuitive whatever, and we have to we have to use these stick things to prove it to ourselves. I mean, these are wonderful and I still use them. But what we're doing actually is learning to trust ourselves and the messages that we get. So as you're doing that, you can sometimes feel things in different places of your body. And you can do deviceless dowsing. And when you have an intent, you start feeling answers in your body when you use this a lot, even before you even pick up a pendulum or L rods. Now, I have a son that when he was 12, he was with some dowsers, Ted Kaufman, and he's one of the elders, not with us anymore. Ted Kaufman, Bruce Irwin, another amazing dowser who is still alive. We all would get together in Ted's farm. He wanted to move an underground stream. So all of these wonderful dowsers, the elders, were using their rods. They're using a rebar. They're tapping. They're doing different things. And then they dowsed, and the stream moved. Well, my son, this little 12-year-old, said, "You don't need to do all that." They said, "What do you mean?" He said, "Just, feel it and use your mind." Well, he gets messages on the back of his neck. He says the hair feels different when he gets a yes. So he, at a young age, already realized when he was using the tools, he got a message in his physical body, in his energetic body, really, because remember, we're all energy. And our energy will pick up and show us so that we can believe ourselves, or we can start paying attention to messages we get in our physical body. So let's see. When I have somebody on my table to do a treatment, I can sort of body douse where to go first or what will help affect this or that. Because I can bring out my pendulum and say, okay, they have the hip pain, and is the hip pain from the hip? And it can say yes. And if it says no, I can find out where the referred pain is coming from. So sometimes I don't have to use this because, I'm doing energy enough. I can sometimes just feel it and know it, and my eyes go there. Like some of the dowsers that you've interviewed that go, like Bill Getz, amazing dowser for wells, over 1,000 wells. I apprenticed with him, and he can go out and look in a field and feel it and go, okay, that's where you go down. That's where you go drill. But the people want to see him do this, you know, but he has picked up the energy. Well, it's like that when you do treatments. It's like that when you do Hawaiian energetics. And then when you have the intent that, oh, this person has inflammation, so I need to cool it, I can change my energy for cooling and go to the inflammation and help cool it with energetically. Is that making sense?
Oh, you're speaking my language. It's making so much sense. And I'm literally feeling what you're describing. As I'm listening to you, I'm just astounded. Like, we're just amazing beings. So you're not the first dowser to say, and I actually, my journey with dowsing is, it was, I guess what you would call a body dowser or deviceless dowser. Some people don't call that dowsing at all. They're like, if there's no instrument, it's not dowsing, right? But however you call it, I always got those messages in my body first, and then learned how to use the pendulum. What I've found for myself is each feeds into the other, so that the like I've become even more sensitive or really clear in terms of the messages that I'm getting in the body. And even when I'm holding a pendulum, I can feel it before I even see it. It's like, oh yeah, it's already changed to my no, or it's already changed to a yes, or what have you. Like I can feel it shift before I even see it. But
Well, people used to live more like that, trusting the feelings or the knowings that they had. In our industrial revolution and the technology and all the stuff that gets in our way, and even the way the school systems are set up. As a teacher, I had kids that would be little kids would be so aware of energy when they were in elementary school. I started off for the first like 10 years teaching in elementary school. And then I got to junior high, high school, and college and high school. But, Anyway, so the little kids would come in and they would talk to me about the colors around people. Or there was a little girl who was a little bit afraid of the people that were standing around her. Nobody else could see them. So she was a little afraid of all that. Students started coming to me because they somehow knew I would go, oh, that's pretty cool. Some people call those spirits or ghosts, or, I had parents back then call me and say, stop encouraging my kid. It's like, what do you mean? This is how people come into the planet. And then our school kind of makes them do this. So we don't pay attention to this. But I learned
I'm sure.
to be in the system and little by little give the kids little seeds. And then I have some of my former students come to my classes, want to learn Reiki. They come to meditation. I love it when they do that. But I was called into the principal's office for doing voodoo in the art room once, and I had to really talk myself out of that one.
Wow. Well, thank goodness for people like you I know, I kind of want to hear that story, but thank goodness for teachers like you. The bottom line is, like, we know so much. You are speaking my language because we know so much more than we think we do. We have this capacity beyond, what we've been told that we have this capacity to do, or taught, or programmed, or however you want to put it.
you asked me about you asked me about dowsing and how I got into it. When I went to the first dowsing convention and I realized that they were speaking my language, that's how I got hooked. And I learned to call it dowsing because I didn't know it was called dowsing. As a little kid, as a 5-year-old, I would know things and sense things. And I lost a lot of friends because I would call it clunking. because I thought my head went inside of their head and I knew what they were thinking, or clunk, our heads kind of, our skulls hit together. I had this term that I called clunking. I had to shut that off because I would get in trouble with my mother a couple times that I knew things I wasn't supposed to know. Um, so people, all people have these abilities, and we do come into the planet with these abilities.
Sure.
If I told kids I can't talk about this during school, but if you want to stay after, I'll be here. So after school, many times kids would come, like we would practice dowsing after school, or talk about crystals or auras or things like that.
Well, I wish I had had a teacher like you. I like I like to joke when I was little, my friend and I mean, it was well, we joke now that we kind of created our own mystery school because we didn't have anyone to talk to about it. We would just but we were playing with pendulums, we were playing with like visualizing, like just kind of some of the stuff that you were talking about, like, oh yeah, crystals, like we were just kind of self-taught. And this was, before I'm going to date myself, but obviously before the age of the internet now. This is a part of what's so amazing about this age, right? Is not only are the energies rising and there's so many people awakening to their own skill sets, intuition, gifts, medicine, whatever you want to call it, but then you add to that this, for better or for worse, this highway of information, you know, it's really cool. So just the fact that you were able to offer that, kind of before people could just Google on YouTube a video on, right?
I was able to still be with kids, and I know that I was supposed to be back in the school system after I healed myself to help
Mm.
some of the kids know about their own abilities and not be afraid of what they already knew. It's remembering, really. We're all remembering what's natural to us.
Yeah. What's next? Well, what's next for you?
Well, I've been asked to more and more to help people like clear their house. Um, somebody's husband died there, and now the kids are afraid to go by a certain place. And I went in and helped clear it and help the person continue on their journey. And he didn't, he was afraid to leave. I mean, there's all kinds of emotional things and going on there. So that's where I think some of my therapy background and my hypnosis background and different things kind of go together. So I'm feeling like um, some of that is, besides people coming to my house and me, I mean, this is my house, my office here. I also have a studio where I do groups, but I've been asked to do things in more of this kind of thing. And I feel like globally people are opening up. I've been asked to go to different states to teach things. So I think we're all kind of networking differently now that we have this social media, and hopefully it'll continue in the good way to help us. Um, but I also like to do the in person things, like I'm so excited about the convention to see people in person. And yes, we're all connected energetically and things like that, but to be right there, it's a lot stronger and it recharges batteries. Build labyrinths. I have a labyrinth here at my home, and my labyrinth, the outer row has mostly red plants, and then the next row is orange, and then the next row is yellow, and then there's green, which are all herbs. So as you're walking it, you can smell, and then there's blue and violet and pink, and in the very center is white. And I have a Buddha there. And every time I travel, because I've traveled and studied spiritual beliefs, like in Bali and in Peru and in Scotland and Hawaii and different places, I bring, first I ask if there's anything that wants to come back with me and be in my labyrinth. And I get a stone or a shell or a stick or something. So along the path in my labyrinth, I have things from around the world. So when I do the walking meditation, I feel I'm connecting and helping send out love and peace and harmony, and I love to help people learn how to build their own labyrinth. So
Mm.
that's another thing. I'm busy for being retired.
So it's like a living labyrinth. And I feel that as soon as you said it, it's like that through that, quantum entanglement, through that connection with those places, you are sending that energy out. What a really beautiful and also like tangible way to do that. Really cool. For someone who's considering taking the Dowsing Foundations course, is there anything else that you'd want them to know about that class that we haven't talked about yet in this conversation?
I talked about how we teach the tools, we teach how to use them, we teach things that you can do with dowsing. I mean, we have lists of things, including just playing with it in the beginning to pick out the kind of clothes or the best way to get from a point here to drive to here. I mean, it might not be the place or the way that you think. And many times people will douse and say, oh, I took a little bit longer way because my dowsing said to. And then they found out there was an accident that they avoided because they went the other way. We tell stories about our dowsing experiences, the people that douse for wells, which I've done a few, but I like I said, I apprenticed with Bill Getz, and he's amazing. And Leroy Bull is amazing. I mean, we have a lot of amazing water dowsers. I do a lot with healing with dowsing and teach people how they can find places in their body where they're out of balance. We talk about, are you centered in your energy field, or are you like off center, and how to get your energy back in center, whether you're dowsing or using your hands. Use your hands as a dowsing tool.
Mm.
We show deviceless dowsing. We show map dowsing. It's only one day.
Have you, in the years that you've been teaching it, what's changed? What's new and different, or what have you noticed either in the curriculum or even in the students that are coming forward?
Well, in general, when I started, there were a lot of people that had farms, or they weren't as much in the metaphysical label of things. I mean, they were dowsers. They dowsed for water, or they dowsed for objects. Some of the veteran and elders. Over time, they started really opening up to the convention. The American Society of Dowsers started opening up to all kinds of other energy work. The energy in colors, the energy in different places in your house, the energy in so many things that you want to make sure that you pay attention to for your highest good, or for your benefit, or for whatever you want to label it, for your best interest, to stay healthy. And that's one of the things that we like to teach about: how to stay as healthy as you can, build your immune system, get rid of things that you don't want, whether it's from this life or another life, because I do past life healing too. Distance healing. I've had the pleasure of meeting so many wonderful people that keep in touch even after the convention. And then I do healings with some of them in different states. So I like developing that part of my offerings, my business. Sounds funny to say business because it's so much fun. Um, Let me see, what else do we do in the convention? Well, we try to encourage people to learn to even use the dowsing to pick out what speaker to see next. What's the best one for them to choose? Because we have so many wonderful people at the convention. How do you choose? And you don't want to miss anything. Well, the first few years I went, I didn't want to miss anything.
As we wrap up our time together, is there any last pearl of wisdom? If there's one takeaway that people walk away with, what would you love for that to be?
Trust yourself. You're an amazing being, and you know that your gut feelings, or the first thing that you get, is usually the truest. And do the best you can to not then create it into a story. You get an image or you get an idea, and sometimes our fears can add layers to those first initial feelings. So when you learn how to dowse, you also are learning more about yourself and how to stay centered and more clear, and you get to know your abilities and how to use them, and learn not to be afraid of your power,
Ooh, on
because we're
that
all
note.
powerful beings. We are.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Joan. This has been such a pleasure.
Well, thank you for asking me to do this.